Episode 1, Family Tradition. This true crime murder adaptation picks up with Alex Murdaugh finding the deceased bodies of his wife and son on their hunting property near their dog kennels on June 7, 2021, and calling 911. The story then jumps back to February of 2019, and we get to learn more about the Murdaugh family. They are a prominent family in Hampton, South Carolina, and their whole family heritage has been in law, and mostly every Murdaugh male has went on to become a lawyer. Alec mainly deals with personal injury cases, but he has dabbled in prosecution and criminal law here and there. He works at a law firm where he is a partner with his father and two brothers called PMPED that his great-grandfather started in 1910. Alec's immediate family consists of his stay-at-home wife, Maggie Murdaugh, and his two sons, Buster and Paul. Murdaugh and Buster was just accepted into law school. They have a full-time house cleaner named Gloria Satterfield, who is very close with the family, especially Paul. Throughout the first episode, we get to see inside Alec's cases he works and how most settlements he does through his law firm are in the millions, and he's making himself and his clients a lot of money. But little do the people around him know, he's spending a good majority of his money on painkillers as he is addicted and has been for quite some time, but everyone else thinks that is in his rear view. That is until Gloria finds a bag of pills and shows it to Maggie, who takes the bag and hides it. Elsewhere, Paul goes with 5 of his friends to an oyster party, and they take the boat and get extremely drunk. On the way back to the lake house, Paul and some others fight over the wheel due to his intoxication level, and they end up crashing into a dock. At home, Alec receives a call from his dad Randolph, and they immediately go to the hospital to check on Paul and the others. But when Alec discovers one of the girls, Mallory, is missing and they couldn't find her, he immediately starts trying to do damage control because he knows this could be really bad for Paul. Episode 2. One is Missing. This episode begins with a flashback to when Alec was a teenager, and he went drunk joyriding one night and ran from the cops, but never faced any punishment because he was a Murdaugh, and their family is pretty much untouchable in the area. Back in present day, Alec goes around the hospital trying to tell all the kids not to say anything to the police, and he promises to protect them. He even tries talking to their parents to make sure they stay together through this, but right now, they're all concerned about Mallory and going to find her. Alec is just trying to save Paul and his family's reputation because it was his boat and Paul was driving. The next day, Randolph tells Maggie Paul could be charged with numerous felonies and spend a good chunk of his life in prison if convicted. Elsewhere, we meet Mandy Matney, who is a journalist that learns about Mallory's disappearance, and how this prominent Murdaugh family seems to always escape any accountability for their actions. And she wants to write a story on it, after many on social media beg someone to. Back over to Alec, who sits down with a client at work and convinces them to set up their recent payout into a structured settlement, but it's obvious he has hidden intentions with this money, and he's not being totally forthcoming. At the Murdaugh house, Paul is really feeling guilty and wants to go help with Mallory's search, so his mom goes with him. But when they get there, her body was just found, and everyone tells Paul to leave as they don't want him there. When they get back home, Maggie begs Alec to fix this so Paul doesn't go to prison, and Alec promises he will make everything right. She also tells Alec she found the pills and says if he has to take them, then so be it, but she will be the one holding on to them though so she can make sure he doesn't take too many. Later that day when Alec gets home, he is shocked to see he's on the front page of the Island Packet and an article written by Mandy. Episode 3. Kokomo. At Paul's initial court hearing after being indicted for the felony charges, his lawyer Dick Harpootlian is able to get him bail set at $50,000, and many in attendance aren't pleased with this decision. Alec wants to get his family's minds off of everything, so he proposes to Maggie and the two boys that they take a spontaneous trip to the Bahamas. Before they leave, Gloria talks with Paul and tells him the Lord will forgive him and that Mallory's in heaven now. The Murdaughs head to the Bahamas, and Buster brings his girlfriend from college, Brooklyn, with as well. As the week goes on, Paul didn't learn his lesson from the boat crash and continues to drown his sorrows in alcohol and even calls Gloria to ask what it will be like in hell. One night at dinner, Alec receives a call from his paralegal about a settlement check they received, and Alec uses this money to pay off his credit cards and other loans, showing us he is pretty bad in debt. The client even calls and asks about his share of the settlement, and Alec lies and says they haven't received it yet when, in actual reality, he's using the funds to pay for this vacation. To conclude, Alec steals money from his clients to fund his wealthy lifestyle, and has been for years, but no one else knows. When they get back to Hampton, Alec is having breakfast one morning, and another lawyer he knows pretty well, Mark Tinsley, sits down with him and says the Beaches, Mallory's family, are filing a wrongful death lawsuit against him, which pisses Alec off. At their house, Gloria is trying to bring in all of the luggage, but she slips on a step, hits her head, and lays unconscious on the cement, and Alex comes out heartbroken. Episode 4. Controlled Burn. Alec goes scrambling around for any money he can so he can settle with the Beaches, but he's having a hard time getting anyone to loan him $1 million, because that's how much he thinks a settlement would be. Paul goes to ask his best friend and Mallory's boyfriend, Anthony Cook, if he will come help him clear kudzu out of a dove field like they used to. Anthony says he loves him, but it's best if they not talk to each other anymore. Paul realizes he has no one anymore except Gloria, but right now she is in a coma in the hospital, and it's not looking good. Alec meets with Tinsley and they discuss a settlement, and Tinsley says the Beaches want $10 million, but the highest Alex says he will go is $750,000. Tinsley laughs at the offer and says they'll see each other in court. Gloria passes away and her funeral is held a few days later. Alec approaches her 2 sons and says they should file a lawsuit against Alec's insurance company since Gloria died on the job, and Alec promises they will get taken care of and he will take care of all the paperwork. The boys thank him for being so kind. Elsewhere, Mandy learns about a boy named Stephen Smith who had a shady death a few years ago, and people in the town thought Buster had something to do with it, but it was never pursued and it was ruled an accident. A few months pass and Alec receives a $3.8 million settlement for the Satterfields, but we all know where this one is going. Alec offers the Beaches $1.5 million, but Tinsley still won't bite. Tinsley says they will go to trial and all of Alec's financial documents will need to be presented to the court, and Alec obviously doesn't want this to happen, as they will find out he's a thief. But he doesn't have the money the Beaches are asking for, so he really has no choice. The episode ends on Christmas with Alec receiving a call from Tony Satterfield, one of Gloria's sons, and they are being evicted from their trailer and want to know when their settlement will be in. Episode 5. The Prince. Mandy does some more digging into Stephen Smith's death, and she learns Stephen was gay and was secretly dating a man he told his friends he called the Prince. Mandy theorizes Buster could have been this Prince fella and killed Stephen so no one found out he liked guys. Mandy publishes an article about it, and it's just more bad press the Murdaugh family have been having lately, and Buster blames Paul for it. Buster does insist he barely knew Stephen, and he only knew them because they played baseball together when they were younger. Everyone in town goes to a watermelon festival, and while there, Alec meets with the judge, who Alec tries to bribe into not having to give his financial information up, but the judge says he's not getting out of this one. Everyone is tired of them thinking they're above the law. The only normal one, Maggie, is even getting tired of it, and she's secretly planning on divorcing Alec, especially when she finds him cheating with some young chick. Throughout the next few days, Alec seems to really be struggling with all of the burden coming down on him, and he's taking more pills than ever and is just headed down the wrong path. He owes so much money to so many people and doesn't know where he is going to get it, not even including his pill addiction, which costs him thousands a month. This episode ends with Mandy telling Stephen Smith's mom she is going to try her hardest to get SLED to reopen the case. SLED is the South Carolina State Law Enforcement Division. Episode 6. June 7th. This episode opens up on June 7th, 2021, and the cops are on the scene, and Alec tells them he just found their lifeless bodies and called them immediately, and the cops seem to buy the story. But Alec is a compulsive liar, so who knows if he is telling the truth or not. In present day, Maggie leaves to go spend time at her family's beach house, as she wants to be as far away from Alec as possible, and her sister ends up convincing her to call a divorce attorney. Elsewhere, Paul goes out drinking with friends, and it's clear he still feels really guilty about Mallory, and he's even seeing her when he looks at any blonde girl in the bar. On his way back to the house, he isn't paying attention while driving, and he hits a dog in the middle of the street, and feeling bad, he rushes the dog to the vet, where the doctor says the dog will survive. Something the old Paul wouldn't have done, and maybe he is having some character growth after all. The morning of June 7th shows Alec at his worst, with the weight of the world coming down on him, and the firm's CFO asks him about a check that is missing, and Alec just tells her he will take care of it and kicks her out. Later that day, Alec receives news from his brother that his father Randolph is in the hospital, and it's not looking like he has much time left. Alec calls Paul and Maggie and convinces them they should spend time together at the house and be there for each other as Grandpa's death is imminent. When they get there a few hours later, Alec asks them if they can go down to the kennels and check on the dogs real quick. Down at the kennels, Paul is making some Snapchats for friends about their dogs. He's dog sitting, and Maggie admires how her flower beds are growing. But then it happens. Paul is shot twice by an unknown assailant, and then the killer takes Maggie out next execution style. The scene then cuts to Alec, who is at his mother's house eating ice cream, completely nonchalant. When he heads back to his house, he calls Maggie numerous times, but she doesn't answer. When he goes down to check the kennels, he finds Maggie and Paul brutally shot to death, and he breaks down. Now the question is, did he do it? Episode 7. On the road you take to avoid it. Buster is at school and he receives a call from his father who tells him what happened, and he rushes home to be with his father immediately. The two detectives, David Owen and Laura Rutland, examine the crime scene, and while Owen thinks Alec couldn't have done this, Rutland seems to be more skeptical of the grieving husband. She isn't from these parts, so she has no idea who Alex Murdaugh even is. Over the next few days, everyone is interviewed, including Alec and Buster. And Buster is angry they are more focused on interviewing them and not more focused on finding out who actually did this. During one of Alec's interviews, he receives a call from Mark Tinsley, who tells him the Beaches are dropping the lawsuit against him as they are sympathetic he just lost his wife and son. So their deaths are already helping Alec out financially, and the detectives definitely take note of his ecstatic reaction. During the services, Alec talks with his mother's caretaker and tries convincing her he was at his mom's house for 45 minutes the night of the murders, but the caretaker only remembers him being there about 15 minutes. It's obvious he's trying to get her to believe it was longer, so he has an alibi, which an innocent person probably wouldn't do. Flash forward a few months and Alec continues to get interviewed by the police, but he still maintains he wasn't down at the kennels at all that night and that he reported 2 guns stolen in the winter of 2020. Maggie and Paul were shot with 2 different guns, but when he leaves, his brother calls him and asks him to come into the firm where they confront him about stealing millions from his clients over the past 5 years. Alec admits to it, but tries blaming it on his pill addiction and that he wasn't being rational. Alec says he will go to rehab, but they fire him anyway. Later that day, Alec tries getting his cousin Eddie to shoot him so he can die and Buster can get his inheritance. Eddie won't do it, so Alec points the gun at him, but then they fight over it and it goes off and Alec ends up with a gash in his head. At the hospital, Alec tries saying a mugger tried killing him, but Rutland and Owen have security footage saying otherwise. Alec is then admitted into rehab. The episode closes with the Satterfield boys reaching out to Mark Tinsley so they can get the millions of dollars that Alec owes them. Episode 8. The Man in the Glass. Series finale. Jump a few weeks later, and when Alec is discharged from the rehab facility, the 2 detectives are waiting outside to arrest him for all of his financial crimes that had been made public recently. With Alec in jail, the detectives meet with the family and they show them a Snapchat video they found on Paul's phone from the night of his murder, and in the background, you can hear Alec talking to the dogs right before the murders, which completely contradicts Alec's statement that he never went down to the kennels that night. And this is enough for them to at least charge Alec with the murders of Maggie and Paul. Buster goes to ask his father why he lied about being down at the kennels, and Alec just blames it on the pills, and that they make his mind fuzzy, but swears he didn't kill Mags and Pawpaw. Buster does believe him, because on the Snapchat video, it definitely didn't sound like a man that was about to kill his wife and son. They all sounded casual and were getting along laughing with each other. The trial then starts a few weeks later, and the prosecutor, Creighton Waters, believes Alec killed Maggie and Paul due to all the financial crimes he had been committing, and with his family dying, he would gain a lot more sympathy from the public. Waters also believes Alec thought Paul was a screw-up, and if he didn't get in that boat accident, none of the rest of the stuff would have happened, and this could have been motive to kill his son. Dick, Alec's lawyer, says all of the evidence is circumstantial at best, and there's nothing that definitely proves Alec committed the murders. Many different people testify, and a lot of them paint a bad light on Alec because he pretty much stole money from anyone and everyone that he could, and it hurt a lot of people. Buster seems to be the only one that testifies in a positive light for his father. Alec tells Dick he wants to testify, which Dick is strongly against, but he says he needs to sit up there and tell the jury the truth straight from his own mouth. The following day, Alec takes the stand and tells the court and the jury he did not murder his wife and son. He accepts responsibility for all of his financial crimes and admits to them, but he insists he could never hurt Mags and Pawpaw. He knows he will be in prison for the rest of his life anyway because of his financial crimes, but he doesn't want to be remembered as the guy who murdered his own family. After only deliberating for 2 hours, the jury finds Alec guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder. One night, Alec is in his cell and remembers that night on June 7th, where he was the one that drove the golf cart down by the kennels and brutally shot both Maggie and Paul with 2 different rifles, and then tried to cover it up, build an alibi, and get away with murder, but failed. The series ends with Alec in his prison cell looking at the man that murdered his own wife and little boy. And that is it for this one, friends. I have plenty more videos like this one, so hope you can check those out. Thanks for watching.